along with a thought process. And since we will be looking at this issue in the coming year, uh, Chair Carr and I both thought it would be really important to get a chance to ask questions and dig into this information a little further. So thank you so much for being here. And whoever would like to kick us off, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Excuse my voice. My name is Kayon Graham. I'm the chair for the commission, and we have the executive summary. So I'll just give like an overview of like what we found based on all of our meetings, because we did a lot, as you said, we did a lot of meetings and a lot of research. So I'll just go over like the recommendations that we have based on our work. So after our reviews and our discussion, we voted unanimously to recommend the board's annual compensation be adjusted and set as follows: in the range of 100 to 130,000 for publicly elected members, adjusted biannually to reflect cost of living increases. And we also voted that the board chair receive an additional 10% of the board members' base compensation. And we also made recommendation as far as the student member of the board, the SMOB. So 30 to 35% of the elected member's salary should be offered to them as a scholarship or a stipend during their term. And then we give them the option to choose whether they want the scholarship or they want the stipend. So we also recommend that the compensation be effective following the approval of the legislative session. As such, all current members should receive increased compensation, and the commission recognizes that this may require a constitutional amendment. So that's like an overview of our recommendations. But we're all here, but if you have like questions, we could go in more if anyone else want to chime in.
Does anybody have any questions to start with? I know I have a few, but
I do, but you go first, Madam Chair.
well, I see Chow also has his hand up. So Delegate Wu, would you like to?
Okay, yeah, thank you. So I need to step out later, so I don't know how the meeting will last. I think the first question, we need to convert this position to be a full-time job?
Can you repeat that? Did we think it should be a full-time job?
Yes.
We spoke.
Right now it's a part-time job, right?
So let me step back for a minute. I think that might be helpful. I'll just add some more color to it. So we did look at the former report, and then we also spoke to, at that time, the current members of the board. And after speaking with them and doing research and looking at other systems, while the job indicates it's part-time, they're spending a lot of their time in this role. So we saw it as more than part-time, may not be 100% full-time, but probably 75%, because they're spending lots of time at the school, they're spending time on weekends, they're spending time answering letters and talking to parents and students. So I will just add this. I think, in prior years, maybe it was a part-time job, but we all know that schools and families are different today. So the board members are spending a lot more time just managing the day-to-day at the school system. So we saw it as at least 75%.
Yes.
And this way, people who want to be a part of this would also be able to accept a opportunity like this because they could afford to do so. And given that, go ahead.
As a member of the commission, I'd just like to say that we felt that it should be full-time, but it was not part of our recommendation. Our recommendations were only on compensation. So it's not in the report to be full-time.
Thank
Yes.
you. I think the
And I would
reason
just-
I'm asking this question is
Mhm.
like the board suppose or kind of you're elected to represent the people, so you have to work at weekend. That shouldn't be counted the compensation so because you work overtime, right? So that if that's the situation, everyone here we work overtime, work on that. We don't count that work hour, right? So that's one point. The other point, I'm concerned about student compensation. That like based on your recommendation, it can be like as high as the entry teacher salary. I really just don't think it can work out. That will be is a high stake like election for student board member, and then they still have to work and graduate. I really don't feel or think they can be compensated that way. It's not really our rate. It's really they by electing a school board member. I know it's challenging, but at the same time, you sacrifice for common good, right? You shouldn't just say, okay, I work that weekend, then I should be compensated, and then that's the reason we got 135. And then for a lot of teachers, I just don't know how they can swallow that. And if we want to make a full-time job, then they shouldn't be elected. If they're elected, they have to be really sacrificed a little bit to be on that position. That's just my point of view. Thank you.
Thank
Um,
you.
I
Delegate,
would just add,
sorry.
I want to add something about the student member of the board. We actually, during our review, we actually spoke to a former member of the board, and the amount of work that he does, like he did actually in this position, like he was very busy. Like it was almost like a full-time job in addition to going to school and everything. So we took into consideration the time commitment. And I know I went on the website and I looked at all the meetings that they had, and they had like so many meetings, and they were so long, and that's just a glimpse of what they did. They had meetings that weren't even on the website. So, and these are skilled people, but the commitment and the time that they spend on it, even though they're public servants, I think that should count as something because, especially for the student member, like they're developing skills, and he gave when he was done explaining to us all the work that he did, we were all amazed at like how much he did just being a student member. So I'll just throw that in there.
Thank
Let
you.
me, let me
Delegate
build on,
Hoffman?
can I build on that last conversation? We are asking, while I understand that they're elected, we're also asking them to be responsible for an enormous amount of money and decision-making. And I think that has to be considered in the compensation.
Thank you. Delegate Kaufman?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, commissioners, for your hard work. They ought to quadruple your salary, the commissioners. And so my question is, did you talk to people who said, oh darn, I really wanted to serve, but I couldn't because I can't live off of $25,000? Because I'm mentioning that um, because of the fact that two former board members told me they could only do it because their husbands made good money and so their income was supplementary. So I'm just wondering, question number one is, did you hear people say, either the current board members that you interviewed say, well, I can do it, but I can do it because da da da, or I know people who wanted to run but couldn't because of the salary? And my second question um is um did I read correctly that you said some of them were spending 60 hours a week, and that their closed sessions where they decide student suspensions and other things can go 2 to 4 hours? Did I read that correctly? And the last point I want to make in response to um Delegate Wu's comment is, yes, we work weekends, but we make 55,000. So for this delegate, um I hope that we decide that they should make at least as much as we do. So anyway, that's my editorial comment, but I did have two questions in there, so thanks.
Does anybody else want to comment?
Well, I'd just like to say, we don't know any, well, how would we find out that somebody wanted the job and they didn't take it? I mean,
Right.
that's just not feasible. But we feel that and one of the reasons for this commission was we feel that the amount of work and the pay limits the pool of eligible candidates. People who want the job but can't afford to do it, they just don't apply. And we feel like the pool should be open. We feel like mothers of 2 children, maybe a single mother, should be able to take the job and it use their expertise as a maybe current parent to be able to do that with a salary that's reasonable.
Hey guys, can I jump in?
I'm sorry, Rachel, I was gonna go real quick. I wanted to just say that also some of these people are taking leave off of their full-time jobs to actually go to these meetings. If you would look at some of the meeting times, they're doing an actual work day. They're at 10 a.m. or something like that, and some of them last for hours into their workday. So that is also, that leave is kind of like compensation that you're taking away from your full-time job to also do this also.
Hey Erin, my name is Rachel Tate. How are you? I also worked on the proposal and I was also I've been a school teacher from CPS and special education. I have also worked on 3 different elections for board members in the past and present. And yes, you are correct. I've met many teachers and wonderful people within the educational system who have not run simply because the pay is not what they can afford to live on. And to answer your second question, numerous of these women, Brenda Wolf, for example, she's retired, right? So she's retired and she's able to run and able to make it a full-time job. Shabra Evans, she told me herself, like she had 2 girls and her husband made enough money, so she was able to run. We also have Carla Sylvester. She still has a full-time job at MC. Plus she's on the board of education and now she's running for the board of county councils. So there are multiple, and it's been women, mostly not men, that are consistently saying across the board that they can do it because they have a partner that is able to support them, or they're women or men who cannot do it because the income is so low in order to pay for that. And because the pay is so low, it asks what type of quality of people do we have that are able to do this?
Yes.
So thank you. Briefly, Madam Chair, if I could, I didn't get an answer to my second question, just about, did I read correctly that their closed sessions can go up to 4 hours, and that some of them said they were spending 60 hours a week? Did I read that right in the report? I'm just trying to
Yes.
see if I read it right. Okay.
Chair Plavkovich-Carr.
Thank you, Chair Ziegler, and thank you for holding this briefing today. And thank you to all the members of the commission who are here and for your work on the report. I'm wondering if any of you can speak to your deliberations about the timing of your recommended salary increase. I don't think I saw that in the report. One issue we have in Maryland is that elected officials actually can't receive a salary increase during their term. So last year, as we considered the local bill that Delegate Charkoudian had introduced in our Montgomery County delegation on this issue, was about that timing. And for me, I think one of my concerns is it's like, would it be fair to have, say, half of the school board members get a salary increase when the next term starts, and then half are still at a much lower potentially salary for some period of time? Or does it make more sense to push all of this off and have everybody get a new salary at some further point down the road? So I'm wondering if that timing issue came out at all as you were doing your work.
So let me speak to that, and somebody else can too as well. We had a brief discussion on timing, but not understanding how the timing would impact every person. I am in HR, so I deal with these issues all the time. And I would say that we need to be consistent. So I would certainly want to see everybody get compensated simultaneously and not half get compensated. However, I don't think to wait 5 or 6 more years, I'm not sure what that would look like. But I think consistency of the timing makes the most sense for the whole commission. And I think whole board and people would rally around together, as opposed to some people getting it and some people not.
I want to say, I just read this report and we did take this into consideration, and we did realize that,
Are you in the play, Gunner?
pardon? Oh, sorry. We recommend that they all get the same raise at the same time, and we also did acknowledge that it might take a constitutional amendment to have that happen, and it is in the report. But we do feel like that it should all take place as soon as it's passed for everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Delegate Chi?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to everyone and commissioners for your hard work. I think, I don't want to speak for our committee, but I think most of us who are also lawmakers, who consider ourselves grossly underpaid, would agree that the school board is a tremendous responsibility, and it's about time for us to reevaluate how we can accurately reflect their workload and complexities of the issues that today's school system requires, right? And I agree with your assessment about diversifying the pool and everything. But at the same time, I also can, echo the sentiment of my colleague Delegate Chow Wu, which is you choose to serve and it is a sacrifice. So I think in fairness, in context between how we compensate the state legislators, how we compensate the Montgomery County Council. Okay, let's just say Montgomery County because we're talking about Montgomery County, right? Then my question here is, in the course of your evaluation recommendation, have you considered whether or not, if we go with the recommendation, which is to bump their salary dramatically to a six-figure base level, 100,000, right? Or top line, 130,000. Would you also do what we currently do with the county council, which by referendum, there was a time we voted on to make council job full-time. And even though it's not in the county code to say you cannot hold another job, but the expectation is you treat this as a full-time job and basically your only job. And that's what these current, bench of council members do largely, right? So I want to understand that part. Is that the expectation? Because I know more than one member of the currently serving board members on the school board have another significant full-time job where they are in somewhat of a mid to higher level leadership role. So it's no joke, right? They cannot just constantly take leaves from their jobs to do school board jobs. So it kind of conflicts with our argument that this is actually a full-time job. Okay, so thanks.
Again, it was not in our purview to recommend the timing. We were just recommending the compensation. So even though we felt that it should be a full-time job, it's not in our report because that was not what we were charged to do.
I would like to ask a question about that if I could. So it has occurred to me that this is a job that has grown over the years. And just playing devil's advocate, I wonder if that has always been appropriate, or if part of what we need to do is to push that job back into a smaller number of hours, because everything expands. It just seems to be the way of the world. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't be focusing more on professional staff who could support board members, and make it possible for them to treat this more as a volunteer. Obviously a heavy lift of a volunteer job, but still kind of a volunteer job for which you get a tip, is how we say. I just wanted to see what you thought about that.
So this is Nicole McDonald. I'll take that because I'm in compensation every single day. So I would say that that's certainly a strategy, but you're gonna still pay that amount for a professional person. Right. You're not gonna pay less. So I don't know how many, is it 6, 7? You're gonna still pay, and you're gonna pay significantly more because you're also gonna pay for benefits. So if you do a fully loaded plan at about 135, now we're talking about 175 to 180. and if you're talking about 6 or 7 people, now you're in the $1 million range already. So you're going to pay it one way or another. And if the idea is to shrink the role, then you're expanding a role somewhere else. Because the board, I understand they approve the annual budget, and they also discipline the senior leader at the school board. And in the last year, that cost a lot of money. So there was a lot of money that was spent on that. So I would say that my recommendation certainly would be to explore the board members as full-time jobs. But either way, you're going to pay the money.
Mhm.
I feel during our interviews, several of the current board members said that they would like to have more staff, especially for areas that might not be in their expertise. And I'm not personally sure how it goes about them hiring more, or does this county council have to weigh in on that? I don't know. But several of the members said that they would like to have more professional staff.
Yes, yes, I remember that, Gretchen. So they have so much to do, and I think shrinking their role, as Nicole says, it would just be, bearing the burden somewhere else. Because right now, when we had our interviews, I heard from several of them that they couldn't do, they're like behind on some things because they have like other jobs that they're doing. And so it's so many. I remember someone telling me about the emails that they receive from their constituents. Like there's so much to do. So I think shrinking the role wouldn't be, in my opinion, wouldn't be the best move, and giving it to a professional. I would say, as Nicole says, just building up, the board and giving them, just supporting them so that they could do it. Because the people that we spoke to, they're public servants. They actually love to do what they do. We didn't have any complaints about, oh, they can't be bothered. It was more of like, I can't do this full time because I have, to pay my bills and so forth.
Thank you. Delegate Kaufman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't planning on a second bite at the apple, but I just had a basic question. And that is, right now, currently, the county pays the school board correct, or is it us, Madam Chair? Whose budget does the $25,000 times 7 people come out of?
The county.
Okay, so it's also just important for my colleagues to consider that, and maybe get inputs from Mr. Tibbetts and from members of the county council at a later time, that it'll therefore have budget implications for the county. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I don't see any other hands up, so I will take a second bite of the apple. I have been on boards before where the workload started to get too heavy, and the fix was to increase the number of members of the board. Has that ever been considered, and is that something that could be helpful?
We did not consider that in our report, as Grace said. That was not a preview that we were to look at.
Okay.
Yes, we weren't commissioned to look at that. We were just focused on what's outlined in Bill, 150. Like the bill just specifies, looking at the salaries and all that. So, but that's an idea, but that's something that we didn't really get into.
Could I just say, relative to Mr. Kaufman's question, even at $150,000 for 7 people is a drop in the bucket of our $1 billion budget.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and relative to the payout of the former head of the school system, drop in a bucket.
Well, yes, but money is still money. Mr. Tibbetts, did you have any thoughts about that? Haven't heard you weigh in yet.
Well, this was the commission's report, and I only
Absolutely.
provided staff report for the commission. The executive did take a look at the commission's report, and I don't have the specific recommendation from the executive, but he did realize that the Board of Education had a unique role of overseeing this $3 billion budget. And at the moment, this is not the right word, but they can only review the information that is provided by the MCPS staff. They don't have any way to independently look at them, such as our county council has their own staff in order to look at information that the executive provides to the council. It gives that two different sets of eyes looking at it, and that the board, they're overworked already, but they don't have the staff. They have increased their staff a little bit from 15 to 18 people, and they added a budget analyst. But again, we're adding one budget analyst for a $3 billion or more now budget. So he certainly did support additional staff for the Board of Education side of this equation.
Yeah, it's really the budget analyst that it seems to me that's a place where somebody could be a terrific school board member without having the necessary background for that. And where it would really to me, make sense to spend some money on professional staff, perhaps in addition, but that would be something to look at.
I mean, it has the full role. It has personnel, which are, no small part of what they have to deal with, in addition to the budgetary considerations, and then the important role for elected officials, which is interacting with the public, which takes time, both constituents, with the board members mentioned that and particularly the student member mentioned, going to all of the schools, just showing up to be engaged with, 211 at that point in time, 211 different schools in the whole system. So it was, and for the county council, I think one of the questions was, should it be a full-time job? The county council's, the law says, for purposes of compensation, county council is considered a full-time job. That leaves open the possibility of having other employment. The expectation was you're a lawyer and you don't have to close down your law firm in order to take something on, but it does allow for people the whole realm of folks in Montgomery County to consider whether this is a role that they want to do, rather than being shut out right away because $25,000 just doesn't cut it for the amount of time that it takes.
Delegate Wu, I think I saw your hand up first. And since you haven't said this, I want to share that Delegate Wu served on Howard County School Board before becoming a delegate.
Thank you, Dr. Ziegler. So I read the report, right? I think one question, one is the hourly rate, is how many hours you have been serving. Yes, I think I can respond to Delegate Kaufman. There are a lot of closing meetings. There are many hours, deliver and read documents, some documents several hundred pages, right? So I think the question is, how do we define the role? If we still want this role, school board, to be a citizen role, right? Is a professional politician role. That's huge difference, right? And like a Congress, they're full-time, right? Our state delegate is part-time. So if we change to be kind of full-time, or then for a lot of people, they don't want to be full-time involved in politics. They still want a second job. That second job provides them a connection with the other part of life. I think that's something we need to think about it, because if we say this is kind of full-time job, and then we kind of exclude a lot of people who want to contribute to be a school board member, but now they couldn't because you just ask too much, and they still want the other part of life, a lot of professional life, right? instead just the elected official. That's one part. How do we define that? I think that's a question we need to answer ourselves if you want to change the role and the pay structure. Second one is really, I always compare school board member, what they're compensated with the entry level teacher. Our entry level teacher are paid around 60,000. If we say this role need to be double the payment to that role, I feel it's a little. I just say we are. I really don't like that way, right? Teachers, they work almost full time, 4 year round. Some like 10 months, 10 months role. Some maybe 12 months role, professional one. And if we see this role is so important, and even like double the salary for entry teachers, I just feel we need to think about that as well. What's the hourly rate for this one, right? Is remove those hours they work at the weekend, because not every board member they actually, or the active or the other board members, some they don't meet the constitution at all. So some actually work really hard, right? That's something we need to think about it. The third one, for student role, I really don't want our student board member to be a professional politician, right? If we pay them $50,000 a year, I just don't see how that cannot be that role. If they said they need to go to different schools, they need to interact with students, like they're supposed to do some part of that. If they couldn't do, they probably shouldn't run it, right? At the same time, they're still a student. I think that's the role we need to put in center of this discussion. It's very for student board member. I served with 4 different student board members. I see their tremendous challenge, especially we're trying to put a student board member to be as much of the adult board member, because there's so much things you need to discuss. There's so many people you need to interact. I think we need to think about this when we talk about the pay structure or the role, and we don't see that discussion here. That's something I feel is missing. And once this gets out, it's a huge change. I think the role for board would be different too. And how do we change that perception? The board member used to be a part-time job, to be a volunteer role. That's the reason we started with the $25,000. And now we're expecting that there be professional almost, right? And or professional politician. What does that mean? Or do we need an elected school board member, or just a professional one sitting there? I feel we need to have a deeper conversation in terms of that. I just want to share my feedback. Thank you very much for the commission. I read like almost 120 pages report. It's pretty comprehensive. I really appreciate the work. I would say it's not an easy job to sit on this commission. Thank you very much.
I'd like to say a few things. First off, I've never had a job where I didn't expect that my boss would make more than I make. And these people are working way more than 40 hours a week, whether they want to or not. I mean, they have all these things that they are required to do. They have all these things that they want to do. And I don't see these board members, my experience with the as politicians. They go around, they're doing their job. They're going to schools to do like a back to school night, something. They're going on a Saturday maybe to a sports event. I mean, they're doing this because they want to help people. I don't feel like the people that I've known have been school board members are politicians. They're doing this really now out of the goodness of their hearts. So I don't know about, and the student member of the board, there are certain things that they are required to do, but it's not a really, so it depends on the student member. Some put more time into it than others. And if you think that paying them, giving them a scholarship is going to make them professional politicians, I think you're wrong. I think that these students are doing this because they see it as, maybe it's a step up they see it as a step up, but maybe they see it as a way to help make the schools better.
Let me build on what Grace said.
Gretchen.
I'm sorry, Gretchen. Oh, I keep doing that to you. I'm so sorry. What Gretchen said, particularly with the student member, one of the things that the student member said was a lot of students would love to do this kind of work, but they have to actually go and work at a McDonald's or Burger King to make money for their families, so they wouldn't be able to do that. And then students that that we're given scholarship for, I think, you know, last time we all looked, even University of Maryland, you can't graduate out of there without you know, about a $200,000 you know, loans. So I think that it's reasonable. I don't see this as being a politician job. We still need to look at the school board, if their oversight, administrative oversight of a $3 billion school system, including a budget, and that equals $25,000 a year. You won't find a professional level person taking on a job like that if it was in the corporate world, private or for profit.
Thank you. Delegate Shi?
Thank you. So first of all, listening to this conversation, I have to say, when we, you know, in elective office talk about politicians, we include ourselves in that overall genre, right? It's not a negative connotation or anything. We consider this a very honorable thing to do, to especially do it in the prime years of our lives, that when we could have chosen to do many other things, right? We all take deep personal sacrifices along with our spouses and families to do that. So please don't, you know, take that as to be any demeaning kind of way. You know, elected officials by default are considered the politicians, whether they do things that look like just serving the community or not. You know, it's in that capacity. But my question is actually a very technical one, which is, besides the straight out cash compensation, what other benefits are we giving the current members in service? For example, do they get, I assume they get great health benefits, just like a full-time employees of the school system, as they should, right? And also, do they get retirement matching, you know, anything like that, especially the retirement part, if someone could comment on that.
I think that's a question for Dale.
I was looking for that as you were asking the question, Delegate. There is no there isn't a retirement package that I recall, and I know it's in the report here somewhere, because the commission did discuss what other, you know, non-monetary compensation did they have, and I don't think there's any sort of retirement, and there may be a healthcare package. But
I can
again,
respond that. I can respond that, Mr.
Please do.
Tibetis. Yeah. So basically, you got the same healthcare plan as the other employee, right? That's number one. That's great healthcare benefit. Second, you actually get a retirement, but the retirement is based on your salary, because their salary is low. Basically, it's like $50 after like 50 years. So that's all. Yeah, and then you got some reimbursement based on your manage, and that's, yeah, it's not so much.
But is that different in different counties?
Not so much, because they count the employee of the state, right? Or the teacher union.
Oh,
They have
okay.
their pool, so like a retirement plan. That's based on your salary, right? So because the salary is low, that's the reason based on that, they're pretty low.
We found that it's different in different counties. It's all, the counties are all kind of, not just in the state, but around the country. It's all different. You can't really compare one to the other. And I don't think that they get any retirement compensation at all, even $50. But I don't know about the health benefits.
Well, in the state legislation, it says an elected member is entitled to health insurance and to other fringe benefits regularly provided to employees of the Board of Education under the same terms and conditions extended to other employees of the Board of Education.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Okay.
Which means it's not free. So if you take 25,000 and you deduct the premiums for health insurance, you're not making any money.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely a sacrifice.
Delegate Kaufman?
This is just a clarification. I just texted a school board member right now, and they said that MCPS does offer them health insurance. So I just wanted to let people know definitively that they do get health insurance. So Delegate Wu is right about that.
They offer the health insurance, not necessarily that you have to that they take the health insurance, but that's different because it's not free.
Right, but I assume that it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dale, maybe you know the answer to this. It's probably less expensive and better than health insurance that is typically offered by an employer, by a private sector employer.
And again, according to the state law, it says the same as other employees get. So I don't see that there was any kind of special rate for Board of Education members.
Right.
And in our interviews with one of the board members, again, this is because we're not there, this is what they said. Board members do not receive a pension or health benefits after they leave office.
Right.
When I'm done with my term, I will have nothing, no continuation of health benefits, no pension. Board members usually put their lives on hold to provide the service to the community and are paid part-time level for full-time work.
Does anybody else have any further questions? Okay, in that case, I just want to mention for anyone who didn't hear this before.
Delegate Charkoudian has her hand up.
Oh, great, I didn't see that. Thank you.
Sorry.
Charkoudian.
Yeah, so I'm not sure, I appreciate the briefing and I appreciate the conversation, and I think that the commission has done really good work, and I think that just want to thank them because I think a lot of what they found is similar to what I found looking into this issue. And I do just want to flag for folks that I do have a bill on this again this year. And so we'll be hearing that bill. And it is my understanding that the county council has already taken a position, or maybe it's just one of the proposed positions, but I think we're going to be able to hear about that when the county council comes with their priorities in a couple of weeks. And the bill that I am bringing this year ties the compensation to our salaries in the General Assembly. So there's still some of the issues that we need to work through related to the constitutionality issue of the timing of how that all, how you change salaries when you have people with staggered terms as they do, and the rest of this conversation. But I just wanted to make sure folks were aware of that. And obviously we can debate the specifics of my bill in the appropriate context.
And there will be a hearing, including that bill, on December 11th from 7 to 9 via Zoom. So if anyone is interested, we will certainly, this is not the end of this conversation. But
Thank you. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
right. No, it's a very important issue. It's a difficult issue. I know there were a lot of different opinions throughout the delegation last year, and I'm sure that there will be again. We're certainly looking at making a significant change. So it's not surprising that there are a lot of different opinions about it. But I do, again, want to sincerely thank the commission for all of their work on this, for their research, for their perspective, and for joining us on this briefing.
Okay.
And I look forward to further discussion and hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you all so much for being.
Thank you.
Thank you.